Good evening, everyone. I'm Hussam Timani. I'm going to speak on Islam, social justice on Islam. But first, I want to thank Dr. Rosenberg and the Rumi Forum for organizing this panel. I'm going to start with a verse from the Quran, 4:135. It says, "You who believe, uphold justice and bear witnesses to God, even if it is against yourselves, your parents, or your close relatives." A quote by the Prophet Muhammad, "No, he does not believe in Allah, nor in the day of judgment, he who eats his full at night while his neighbor is racked with hunger." All right. Social justice is at the core of the message of Islam, at the core of the Quran. A Muslim scholar by the name of Asma Barlas, she said, and this is a quote, "Monotheism makes for a just and coherent moral universe since God never does any wrong." The word in Arabic, zulm, could be also injustice. So since God never does any injustice to anybody, rather God in the Quran is an ethical construct associated with the concept of truth and justice. So yes, the Quran commands the Muslims to lead a pious life. And Islamic piety can be achieved not solely by personal or individual piety, but by striving hard, collectively and personally, to eliminate injustices. And that's how the Quran, for those who read the Quran, you can see that God is saying, well, believe in God. By the way, help your neighbor. Believe in the angels in judgment day. By the way, make sure that free your slave. So the message came, piety with justice together. It's not just piety, believe in God. So this is the justice definitely at the core of the message. It is reported that the Prophet Muhammad once said, this is quote, "Whoever takes a piece of the land of others unjustly, he will sink down the 7 earths on the day of resurrection." So we can see that the Islamic theological and religious teachings are centered on the concept of justice. And all the duties that the Quran prescribes eventually lead to establishing justice in one's own community. Now, the beginning of Islam definitely was a call for social justice. Again, Muhammad, the Prophet, when he was in a cave and above his city meditating and he received the Quran, he had questions. He was asking, why I am suffering? Why there is suffering? Why there is injustice in my society? And suddenly, God spoke to him. So really, the message of the Quran came more to reform the society, to eradicate the injustices that plagued the society at that time. So yes, Islam emerged as a direct response to the inequalities in Arabia. In the 7th century. In the words of Karen Armstrong, world-renowned scholar on religion, Karen Armstrong has argued that Islam was first received by the Arabs of Mecca in an atmosphere of cutthroat capitalism and high finance. This is a quote. Again, capitalism, definitely there was no capitalism at the time, but that's what people cherished, wealth. And you have the wealthy who kept the wealth for themselves and neglected the majority of the people who were poor. So the Quran spoke against social economic injustices, and there are so many verses in the Quran that about poverty, help the poor, and that's where you have one of the pillars of Islam is the almsgiving, free your slave, give your women rights, elevate them, give them dignity, help the orphans, the children. So you have so many verses in the Quran that will speak about justice and promote justice. Also, the Quran allows ownership of property and accumulation of wealth on the condition that the believer must share their wealth. So, yeah, you can have wealth, but make sure that, remember, you have to share that wealth with others. So, and yeah, the promise is that you do that, you will be rewarded in heaven. So God is trying to promote justice by giving the people reward. You do justice, you will be rewarded. Now, to establish justice and to maintain justice in society, believers must pursue a life balanced. So again, they have to avoid extremes. So this is in Islam is that if you pursue one extreme, that's you're committing injustice. So boasting in pride is one extreme, and suffering in humbleness is extreme. Greed and spendthrift, excess in worship, and having little or no faith at all. So in the Quran, God refers to the Muslim community as ummatan wasat, which means a balanced community, or a community, a moderate community, moderation, middle course. So the term wasat is a Quranic term that defines the concept of justice. It appears in the Quran in the context of bearing witness. And this is the verse. It says, we have made you, believers, into a just or wasat community, so that you may bear witness. All right. So now, Quranic commentators interpret this verse to mean that God requires Muslims to be a moderate community, in the middle, avoiding excess. Wasat, moderation, is related to just faith, which means a balanced faith. All right, so this is how to maintain the justice, is by maintaining the balance, the middle course. Now, according to the Quran, it is God who both provides for believers and commands believers to share their wealth with others. So again, this command is that you have to share. And Muslims believe that God will not allow believers to become poor because they share with others. So in Islam, you have the assurance from God that the belief and the belief that God will provide. So don't be scared. Go ahead, because at that time that people were, I don't have enough. Well, that's okay. You can, God will provide. Just give. So Islam's concerns for the salvation of society as a whole can be seen in Muslims' behavior after establishing the first Islamic community in Medina. Now, this is another episode in Islamic history, that the concern for social justice equal to piety. So scholars often ask the question, why after going to Medina, so when Muhammad moved from Mecca, when he was chased out of Mecca, he went to Medina, why Muhammad did not, and the Muslims, live a quiet, secluded, upright lives, worshipping God as they pleased? Why did they attack Meccan caravans on the road between Syria and the north and Mecca? Why was Muhammad not satisfied until he had to return to Mecca and destroy the old polytheistic and economic system? So according now to scholars, that Muhammad's concern was not to convert everyone to Islam, but to abolish the system that perpetuated injustices. So this is the main concern at that time, is that not to convert. You don't want to convert, that's fine, but make sure you commit justice. Make sure you are just. You want to remain polytheist, that's fine, but make sure you pursue justice. So that's when he returned to Mecca. He started with saving the poor, the slaves, orphans, women, the oppressed and the deprived, more than to convert individuals to a new religion. Again, so this is the argument by some scholars. I want to move now to talk about after Muhammad died and medieval Islam, medieval Islam. Medieval scholars saw social justice as the only way to maintain the unity of God and the unity of the Muslim community. They saw in social justice a set of principles and practices that would preserve the individual in the society and promote strengths God's rule on earth. A Muslim theologian by the name of Al-Ghazali died in 1111. Again, he talked about social justice and he defined it, and it's until today studied by Muslims. And he said that the ideal states consist of a social being whose satisfaction demanded moderation, avoidance of extremes, and respect for and tolerance of the others. So in Al-Ghazali's ideal state, accumulation of excess wealth, conspicuous consumption, and fair trade practices are to be avoided. All right. Now, I want to conclude with the statement that starting with medieval Islam until today, social injustices are, again, prevailing in the Muslim world. And what happened is that, according to scholars, that in medieval Islam, because of internal, external strives, so the rulers focused on the integration of the society. So they sacrificed justice for maintaining the society against external and internal threat. And until today, the rulers made this argument that, well, we have to maintain the society, but we have to sacrifice justice. And that's why scholars today, Muslim leaders, activists, they say, we have to work on social justice in the Muslim world. And their declarations, they speak to the realities of the Muslim world today. And I'm going to end right here. Thank you.